Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this very important webinar that is hosted by Africans Rising. Africans Rising is a Pan-African movement of individuals and organizations working for justice, peace, and dignity. So we have here comrades who are already members of Africans Rising, but if you're only getting to know about the movement for the first time, we are looking for like-minded Africans who are interested in building the Africa that we want. And just in the course of this conversation, we will be sharing in the chat box the link to join the movement. Remember, you can join the movement as an individual who is very passionate about pushing Africa forward, but also as an organization if you want your organization to be part of Africans Rising. Africans Rising has membership in all the African countries and in all over 150 other territories and countries of the world. So you would be joining one of the largest Pan-African movements to exist on the continent. And today we're having a very, very special conversation. And this conversation is basically about Cameroon. We're focusing today on Cameroon because Cameroon goes to the polls on October 12th, and October 12th is Sunday. And we would like just to engage with our members, have a conversation about readiness, challenges, and what exactly the prospects are. My name is Ansel Langwa, and I am the Movement Building and Support Lead Officer for Africans Rising. So with just a few days to go to these elections, this conversation offers us a critical space to reflect not only on the state of readiness, but also on deeper issues of participation, inclusion, and peace. And we are joined today by three very incredible activists and human rights defenders who are going to be bringing each their own unique insights from different fronts of their struggle for justice and democracy in Cameroon. Today's session is going to last for an hour. We'll start with brief reflections for 5 minutes on topics which I'll directly ask our speakers. And after that, we're going to open the floor for other audience contributions and, any feedback that members would have. Please feel free also in the course of the conversation, if you hear anything, to put down your comment or your question in the chat box. And of course, later on, we're going to open up a Q&A session when members can ask questions live. You raise your hand and we'll definitely give you the floor. Also, feel free to speak in French if you do not understand or if you cannot express yourself well in English. And we're hoping that everyone can get some level of English at this point. Cameroon is bilingual, but to our other comrades joining, I hope that you would not have any issues. But we're here for you. So thank you so much for joining. And I think we're just going to go straight into to introducing our speakers for today. We have Madam Free Asanga, who is a representative of Civitas Cameroon. And Civitas Cameroon is also working a lot on human rights issues and most especially issues relating to women and internally displaced women. They'll be sharing with us later today about, issues, things relating to participation of women in the elections. We also have BTS um, MDDT, and she has worked on a very wonderful campaign, My Vote Na Power, and I would like to hear from her really later on in this conversation what she thinks about turnout. And we also have another human rights defender who is joining us from the Anglophone speaking region of Cameroon. And he would bring us, an important insight as to how the election preparation is in an area that continues to face social and political unrest, and that is in the Anglophone region of Cameroon. So also, if you're just joining us, please do let us know who you are and where you're joining us from as we move forward with the conversation. So, just time for me to introduce to us our first speaker, Bidias. Are you here?
Good evening to me amongst all of you, and I hope we are going to have an insightful conversation, especially with the upcoming elections on Sunday. I think we are going to have a fruitful, engaging, and fruitful and engaging conversation in relation to that. So thank you very much. Thank you. I'm very happy to be amongst all of you.
Amazing, Bidias. Thank you. I think we'll just get started with you, and you can tell everyone a little bit about who you are. I know you're a human rights activist as well, and you have also been involved so much in this campaign, My Vote Na Power. So, but before we get, just deep down, you can tell us a little bit about the work that you have done, and then now give us, some insights into what you like, your observations on how ready Cameroonians are to participate in the October 12 elections. Just in your work encouraging voter turnout, what are you seeing in terms of awareness, in terms of enthusiasm, and what do you think are some of the key obstacles to participation, especially among young people? You have the floor, Jess.
Okay, thank you very much for that question. I'm called Bidiaz Azok Manuela Andrea. I originate from the French-speaking part of the country. I'm precisely from the Center region, and I am the director in charge of youth engagement at MDDT Cameroon. That is the Movement for Democracy, Development, and Transparency. And right now, we are carrying out a project that is promoting youth advocacy on civic rights and enhancing youth participation in elections. And in this project, we have as a slogan, Ma Vote Na Power, as Anse earlier made mention of, and a slogan, Not Too Young to Vote. So in this project, we are basically carrying out this main activity, that is the Miss and Mr. Civic Cameroon contest. The Miss and Mr. Civic Cameroon contest is aimed to redirect youth energy into innovation and civic engagement. We looked for a tool in order to re-engage young people to fight against voters' apathy and electoral violence. We've engaged more than right now. We have been doing call for application in all the 10 regions of Cameroon, and we've carried out symposium, for example, in like 6 regions already. We've carried out the symposium in the southwest region. We've carried one in the south region. We've been carrying out the Miss and Mr. Civic Cameroon contest, where young people who are doing a lot of things in their communities are expressing, are telling us how they are involving, or how they are including young people in democratic processes, in peace building, in decision making processes. So now, concerning for the upcoming elections, the readiness of Cameroon for the October 12 election is, for me, it's a story of two parallel realities, and it varies dramatically depending on who and where you are. So on one hand, there is a segment of the population, particularly in the major urban centers of the littoral and central region, that is aware and engaged. The electoral campaign has begun, and you see posters, you hear rallies in cities like Douala and Yaoundé. We are hearing prominent politicians who are really bringing up a lot of people. I think yesterday we had Samuel Yodi, who was in SAR. We had Issa Tiroma, who was in Mokolo. We are seeing these political figures who are bringing out a lot of people, who are making the election very much vibrant. The electoral body Elekam is equally conducting voters card collection. We have in Douala young people who are going to collect their voters card. So even though some are complaining of the readiness of administration, because some are complaining of the fact that their voters card are not available. Some are even complaining of the fact that they are being asked to pay in order to collect their voters card. So, however, in the voters mobilization across the country, a profound and a worrying gap between the administrative readiness and the civic and emotional readiness of the people, especially the youth. So in terms of awareness, there is a widespread awareness that an election is happening, but there is a critical deficit in awareness about why it matters and how to engage safely and especially effectively. So many citizens, particularly in rural areas, are not really clear on the procedures or the importance of their vote. And regarding enthusiasm, as you earlier made mention, frankly, we are facing a tsunami of apathy. The dominant sentiment amongst the youth I have spoken to is what will change. Many people feel that the political process is a closed shop. predetermined, and even disconnected from the pressing concerns. So the crippling cost of living, the rampant unemployment, the severe insecurity, for example, in the Anglophone region and even the Far North region, is a really call for concern. So, according to me, the main barriers, especially for young people, are threefold. I'm going to make mention of the trust deficit. There is a deep-seated mistrust in the entire electoral ecosystem. Young people cite past grievances, perceptions of electoral injustice, and a feeling that their votes do not really translate into tangible improvement, into governance or accountability. This is not just a feeling, it is a conclusion drawn from experience. I've equally seen from interviews, for example, I had a I carried out a live TikTok last time with young people. I saw them due to this electoral campaign. I saw a box, for example, the campaign strategy of for CPDM. They came up with a box that has a lot of packs, and I carried out the live and I asked those young people like, "What is your sentiment?" Some of them were like, "We are only dancing on social media to create content to make the thing trend, but seriously, what we change?" We know that the system is very corrupt. We know there is electoral injustice. So some don't are not even interested. Some are just following the trend. Some don't even really are not really interested. They don't even want to know what is really happening when it comes to these elections, to these upcoming elections. I equally witness the security barrier. When I talk about security barrier in the northwest and southwest regions, the question is not about enthusiasm, but it is about survival. The ongoing crisis means that for many, the idea of going to vote is a life or death calculation. Threats from non-state armed groups and the general climate of fear have made civic participation an extreme sport. We cannot talk about readiness without acknowledging this terrifying reality. For over 1 month, 2 weeks, there have been lockdown in the southwest and in the northwest region. Some are even scared. Yesterday, while I was in my house in Boya, I saw some people coming down my street with guns, asking people to close up shops, telling them not to open. You people heard about lockdown. So in this kind of atmosphere, you see rare people, you see people not really very much enthusiastic about it. That they are basically depending on thinking about their own survival. You see people not really taking the risk or bearing the risk to go and vote. They'll rather think about their own safety because they have put in their minds that what will really change. We equally have the economic and logistical barrier. For many people, for example, you see Marwa, Dabanga, Bertois, or even the suburb of Douala. The immediate concern is putting food on the table because they have the impression that the system is you cannot beat the system. So their major concern is to put food on their table. So when you are struggling for survival, voting becomes a luxury, let me put it that way. So furthermore, many young people are internally displaced and face immersed logistical hurdles to register or read or even to go and vote. So they basically don't really get into this. So, in summary, while the state may be technically ready, like they presume, a significant portion of Cameroonian populace, particularly its youth, is not ready to participate in an election they do not believe in a process they do not trust, and in a context where their basic safety and welfare are not guaranteed. So that is what I can say for my first intervention. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vidyas, for those very for sharing. And I was really particularly interested in hearing what you had to share, especially because just being aware of this campaign. I know that this campaign, My Vote Na Power and Not Too Young to Vote, has been on for a very long time. So now we need to know, like, did anything change? Was there different sentiment as a result of this campaign? And I think that you have given insights into things that I believe that are very important, especially when you talk about the fact that Cameroonians are aware that there are elections. So they know. But now, in terms of participation, that's where we have an issue. And also, some of the huge challenges that you've mentioned, there are people talking about inability to get the voters' cards. So others who are talking about even being asked money to get voters' cards. And, obviously, the dominant sentiment among the young people which you have mentioned. You've mentioned also one very important issue, and it's about those in the English-speaking parts of Cameroon. I know we'll be talking to one of our comrades soon, who is actually a human rights defender there, who would share more insights. But you've mentioned something, and it's just about survival. People are thinking more about how do I survive this period versus do I need to go vote? So now it's like, do I want to survive this very period or do I go out to vote? And that obviously is, playing a lot in terms of preparedness for the elections. Thank you so much for that. Now, I'll just turn to the question on inclusion and justice, and I'm going to invite Madam Freya Sanga, who is also a feminist herself, a human rights activist, and works with Civitas Cameroon, to amplify the voices of women and marginalized groups in civic spaces. And I know that a very great part of their work also involves involves working with the internally displaced women. So from a Madam Free, from a feminist and human rights perspective, how inclusive is the current electoral environment? Like what and first, that's the first part. And then what do you think are some of the specific challenges that women, youth, and marginalized groups are facing in participating in contest or contesting in the election? Because there's two things. So I'm talking about women's political participation in terms of contesting and also participating in the actual process.
Thank you, Ansel. Thank you, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here and to discuss this very important and sensitive topic when we are just days away from the presidential elections in Cameroon. First, I would like us to look at the ecosystem. What is the electoral ecosystem in Cameroon? I would think that we can look at four major points of this ecosystem: the law, the candidates, the voters, the institution, and maybe some environmental factors. When we look at the law, the question that comes in mind is our electoral law inclusive? And generally, I would say no. Our electoral law is not inclusive. It's not inclusive because it doesn't take specific challenges of the various groups. I would say it is actually a patriarchal law that does not take into consideration the specificities of women, of youths, and of marginalized groups. And once you start with a law that is imbalanced and exclusive, the rest follows suit. And we can see that when we look at our candidates for the 2025 presidential election, it's majority men. Why is it majority men? It goes back to the fact that the law does not permit or is very stringent on individual candidates. You cannot postulate as an independent candidate for the Cameroon presidential election. Why? Because they're requesting for unimaginable conditions. You have to go gather 300 signatures from that at least 30 per region, which for a woman or for a young person is quasi impossible to do. Now, coming back into our party system, if a party is not led by a woman, it is difficult for that party to put forward a female candidate. So we find that women are marginalized even within their own political systems. They cannot advance themselves as candidates for the election. Moving forward to the institutions in place. Which are the institutions that run the elections? Although we have ELECAM, which is supposed to be an independent body, it is not independent when we look at the functioning of the system. And the Ministry of Territorial Administration is mingled in the electoral process. So there is no independence in it. We cannot talk of guarantee the independence of the electoral process, which now translates to the frustration of voters. The previous speaker just talked about a youth being disillusioned about voting in the presidential election. It goes across boards. Even women are disillusioned because they don't see any stake in voting for in going to vote for this election. What is going to change? Who is going to talk about the plight of women? How is that going to be integrated in the electoral process? What are their fears? Find that we have the insecurity in the environmental. We have seen what has happened to some candidates who have been stopped from carrying out their campaigns in some particular region. And knowing what Cameroon is, imagine that was a female candidate, she would be beaten. We also see women who have attempted in the past. We've seen how they've been dragged, arbitrary arrest, arbitrary torture, and all of that. That also is a discriminatory factor that hinders women from even thinking of postulating for the elections. And when we look at, to arrive at the presidential election, we have to start from somewhere. Women have to start from somewhere. They have to start at the municipal level. They have to move from the municipal level to the parliamentary level before gathering that know-how, the knowledge, and the courage to even run for the highest office in the land. But when we look at that, going back even to the municipal level, we have some cultural practices, cultural norms that hinder the participation of women. Like I earlier said, we are in a dominant patriarchal society where most women have to listen to their spouses, listen to their parents, listen to the society, and the society does not consider a woman standing or running for public office as culturally acceptable. So you find that even at the lower level, women already think that politics, getting into politics or running for office is not for them. So that makes it difficult now coming to the higher level to find women in office. We have socioeconomical obstacles. We know that women are disadvantaged. They are not economically empowered. And when we look at how much we have to raise in order to run for the election, even if a party is supposed to sponsor you, the general tendency is like, are we going to waste this 30 million francs on a woman who will definitely not get the votes across the board? So we come to see that it is a very, very unlevel playing ground for women. There's usually voter intimidation across the board, whether it be in the urban areas or rural areas, but mostly in the rural areas where coverage and monitoring of elections is not done systematically. Most women are discouraged to go out and vote. Even those who have registered and have their voters card are discouraged to go out and vote. So we see that the challenges for women are manifold. They are financial constraints, they have pressure from the family, from their spouses, from the society, limited political experience. You know, there's general gender violence that makes us not interested in the political dispensation. It becomes very, very challenging for women to be actively engaged and to break some of these barriers, that legal barriers, the insecurity surrounding. So that is one of, I would say, one of the major challenges that as women we are facing. But all hope is not lost, because we have civil society organizations that are working endlessly to encourage women to participate. Although the civic space is limited in Cameroon, it is a restricted space because it is generally controlled by the government. And for any political activist who wants to engage in something the government thinks is contrary to their opinion, intimidation abounds, but as women, we can never give up. We would continue to empower ourselves. And in Civitas, we have the slogan, empowered women should continue to empower women. So we'll continue to empower ourselves in order that we can advocate for changes. Advocate, the voice of a woman is the most powerful voice on the planet. So if we can come together as women, as civil society organizations, and advocate for change to start at the very, very level, which is the legal framework for elections in Cameroon, I think that there will be hope in the future. But right now, it is a very bleak election and electoral process that is ahead of us. But the struggle continues. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Sanga, for sharing that. And I would agree with you. We have what about 13 candidates on the electoral list, and we only have one woman. So obviously, women's political participation in terms of being a candidate for elections is actually, especially in this year's case, is not encouraging. And you also mentioned something which we see that abounds. Many women, you're talking about, just how they feel as discouraged as the youths. You've also spoken about marginalization, even within political parties. Most of the existing political parties do not want to put forward a woman as their candidate. And also the fact that people need to belong to political parties to be able to, present themselves as candidates for the elections. And of course, not forgetting, the conditions, the unimaginable conditions, as you called them, that these candidates would need to fulfill. And, that usually would restrict lots of women. But like you've said, the whole insecurity situation affecting many women also, plays a very great role in all of this. We have a third speaker who unfortunately is facing some serious technical issues. He's also currently in the Anglophone region, and we've been struggling even before the webinar for him to join, but I think he came on at one point and then left. But I think we can go back to Bidias Andre, who also mentioned that she currently lives in the region, and she can just tell us a little bit. I know you had started to share that. I know that the election context for people like me, for example, who are in Yaoundé, Cameroon, and who are preparing for the elections, it's very different from that of someone who is in the Anglophone regions, any part of, let's say, Boya or Bamenda. So can you maybe tell all of us a little bit about what the local context is now ahead of the elections? And, what do you think? How do you think this is perhaps going to affect, voter safety, civic participation, and freedom of expression? Just a few words before we come back.
Okay, precisely in the southwest region, I'm going to make mention of what I noticed when I was leaving Douala, coming to Boya. When there are authorities coming to the region, you're going to see from Mutengene right up to Boya. You're going to see how they're going to dispatch military men all over the street, control you. See Amokas entering left and right. You're going to see a hamper, like the town is very, very much secure. There's security in the whole town. But since this ghost town started, especially the day I left Douala coming to Boya, I noticed that even the military men were not there. The control is not as when the officials are coming into town. I asked myself question, this is a period where we really need this security because elections are upcoming. The secessionists made us to understand that they don't want elections into this area. They don't want to hear anything about campaign. People cannot move freely. I took an example when I spoke earlier of the fact that yesterday, seated in my house from upstairs, I saw men entering to my area with guns, asking shops to be closed. So in this kind of tendency where the security level in the region, I don't know how I'm going to call it, security level in this are changing depending on who enters or who does not enter. It's a question I have to really, it's something that really bothers me. And it equally bothers the people because it makes us understand that we are scared. Because somebody living in a town where if I move, for example, from my house to the police station, I don't see any security man who can take care of me. I bet I can receive any gunshot at any time. Then why will I go and vote? So there is fear that is instilled in in people. They are very much afraid to go and vote. They are not seeing security being implemented for them to really, or dispositions taken for them to go and vote, or for them to go and cast their vote to carry out their civic right. The control is very much limited because control is only done when officials are coming, or when politicians are coming, or when campaigns are supposed to be done. Then what about the people? So at this level, the security barrier is very much limited. So the tendencies of people even going to vote, for example, on Saturday, because they made us understand that even on that Saturday and Sunday it's a lockdown. So how will I take the risk as somebody in this area? Because I cannot risk myself knowing that I will be killed. And we know civic spaces in Cameroon are closed up. Human rights defenders, most of them are not even obliged to even express themselves freely. So if I go and they shoot me or something happens to me, who is going to come and pay the bills? I see nobody coming to pay the bills for me. Or if I take my phone to call, or if I take my phone to make a public announcement talking about the security tendency and being arrested, or they do something to me, which human rights activist would profoundly take up himself and come to communicate about it, because he himself is scared of his own life. I'm going to take an example during a constitutional dispute where Maurice Kamto's militants came at the level of the Constitutional Council to talk about his candidacy has to be accepted. Some of them are still in prison. They're still imprisoned. Nothing has been done. So there is this fear, and there is this after elections. Like if something happens to me, nothing will be done. So everybody prefers to stay in his home. So
Thank,
that's
thank, Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Bidias, for sharing that. And I think this really goes in line with a conversation that I was having, which was very informal with some schoolmates and friends who are currently, because we all went to school in the English speaking part of the region. And, we're asking about elections and voting. And, the first thing that they said is they've bought enough things in the house to keep them home on that day and the days that follow. Because right now, everyone has been advised not to leave their homes. So now with something happening like presidential elections, which is a very important time in the life of a country, a very important moment in determining who would continue to run the affairs and lead the affairs of our country. You have people who find themselves in a region and the only thing they have to be concerned about is their safety, because they're like I'm happy that you've shared the examples about the security being there only for when these personalities or government officials need to come in, and later on you don't see them. So right now, I think the tendency is that most people feel like they need to keep themselves safe on that day. So people are thinking about safety rather than the need to go out and vote on that day. And that really is it's a very troubling issue. But then I'll just come back to, what like to your earlier intervention on people's, or just on people's youths participation and everything. And I want you to tell me, according to you, at least in your work with the My Vote Na Power campaign and Not Too Young to Vote, what strategies do you think worked well to combat voter apathy? What do you think worked well this time?
okay. The first thing I'll mention is the linking of vote to concrete issues. We don't just say go and vote. It makes no sense because people have been saying for years, go and vote, go and vote. We facilitate discussions that connect the power of a vote to a specific issue. If you want better roads in your neighborhood, if you want lower university fee, if you want, for example, functional health care, then the people you elect are responsible for that. Holding them accountable starts with making an informed choice. And with the work I've been doing, I noticed that young people really don't like, I'm going to say, very formal things anymore. So if you leverage creative art and digital media to reach the youth, it is going to be very much important. We collaborate, for example, with popular musicians, comedians, social media influencers to create content that demystify the process and counter misinformation in an engaging way. In the Not Too Young to Vote or in My Vote Na Power campaign, we collaborated with an influencer, for example, a comedian, La Moustique Le Charismatique. In the North, we collaborated with this Sahel musician called Tao. So collaborating with such people, and then at a level we collaborated with Elekam to organize a meeting, to organize an event where we are going to call in young people to come and register and have a voter's card. So due to this collaboration, where these young people were doing, where these comedians, artists were doing videos enticing young people to come and register, have their voter's card, that day we massively had a lot of people coming to register to have their voter's card. We equally came up with this innovative idea like the Miss and Mr. Civic Cameroon contest, because we saw how young people were gradually like shifting themselves from formal, or like if you call it young people now, you're going to on symposium or round table, like they were not really much interested into this kind of sphere, because according to them it was so formal, it was so, the language even spoken there was not really in relation to their own language they better understand. So we came up with this idea of Miss and, like, innovative ideas that tends mostly to the young people, like the Miss and Mr. Civic Cameroon contest that intends to redirect young people, into innovation and civic engagement. With this competition, we elect young people per regions. We go to each region, we do a call for application. The people register. When they register, they have an online training, they do online messaging where they encourage young people to register and have a voter's card. They do videos where where they talk about electoral violence, asking people not to get into electoral violence during, before and after elections. Like all these people, they were able to engage a lot of people. And right now, as I'm talking to you, we've had over 500 young people who have been engaged online to fight against hate speech during election and electoral violence, before, during, and after election. So such innovative ideas can equally bring young people to be really active, or to equally partake in democratic processes, because through this level, they're going to find themselves being implicated, they're going to find themselves in their own sphere, they're going to find themselves they're going to see they are not more into this regular type of things being organized for them. At least it is diverted to the kind of things they're very much interested into. I equally made mention of transparency in advocacy. We have to be very honest about challenges. We don't promise that one will solve everything. Instead, we frame voting as an essential first step in the long-term struggle for accountability. We train citizens on how to identify and report electoral malpractices, empower them to be guardians of the process. So through this Miss and Mr. Civic Cameroon contest, that is what we've been doing. We train these people, we empower them, we redirect their energy, as I earlier made mention, to flee away from voters' apathy, and equally encourage their peers to actively engage into this voting process, into decision-making process, into democratic processes as a whole. So that's what I have to say.
All right, thank you, Bidias. Thank you very much. And then I'll come back to you, Madam Fia Sanga, and just talk about, we've spoken a little bit about gender inclusion, and we've mentioned that we don't think, at least you mentioned that you don't think that this was taken very seriously. So, what would a truly inclusive election look like in Cameroon? I'm afraid that, okay, perfect.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I think that there are a number of crucial aspects of the electoral process which require considerable modification and maybe reinforcement in order to actually solve this long-lasting a deficit in inclusion. One of the main things I think is that we should have a very credible and independent electoral body. Because as long as we perceive that our current electorate is biased and is not independent, it will be difficult to achieve true inclusion. Now, the former speaker has just spoken a lot on voter registration. It has to be fair and accessible to all. Right now, there's a lot of talk about voter registration. People have voted, the youths have voted, have registered, sorry, I beg your pardon. When we go to collect cards, you'll find another story. So many youths who registered have not collected their cards. And we know what that is going to translate into. It's going to translate into people not being able to vote. And we know how the country has been polarized. I don't know how we got there, but right now we see people not in terms of who they are, but in terms of where they come from. So if we perceive this is a Bamileke candidate, a voter, they're going to make things difficult for you to vote because we imagine your orientation, who you're coming to vote. So there's a lot of things that has to be done for to achieve a level playing field in Cameroon. And that is only then that we can have complete inclusion. If the playing ground is not level, you will not have women, you won't have young girls even attempting to register to vote. There should be transparency and accountability in voting and in the counting and results proclamation. I wonder why we still don't have a completely digitalized voters system in place in 2025. If this is achieved in Cameroon, people will start building confidence in the results. But we've seen in the past where people actually get the results from their polling station, but when results are published, it is something else. So that in itself brings in disillusionment in young people and especially women. Lastly, I would think that the civic space has a lot to play in the electoral process. And if the civic space is strengthened and allowed to exercise itself freely, then we'll have a very healthy and vibrant civic environment. We'll have all what our former speaker has said. Very few organizations are capable of achieving that because of the challenges that civil society organizations face in going down the field to educate the electorate, to mobilize young people, women, to go reach disenclaved communities, and even educate them on the benefits of voting. Now, when you come talk of the youth, I'll just give you an example. If you are an 18-year-old girl and you commit a crime, you're liable. But this same 18-year-old is not allowed to vote or be voted for. Is that fair? If you can commit a crime and go to jail, if you can be recruited in the army to defend the country, that same country should allow you at 18 to vote. Look at the population structure in Cameroon, almost half, that it's say 49.1% is below 18. So we already see that a majority of the population, a huge chunk of the population has been excluded in the electoral process as voters, candidates, you're not allowed to be. But the future of this country is in the hands of this 18-year-old. So there is a divide. If you look at a young girl, take it 24 even, what is the motivation to go and vote? When you have people in government who were in government before you were born. So at the back of your mind, there is no place for you in the country or in the civic space or even in the electoral a process in the country. So to convince that kind of a person that go and vote or go and be voted for is a very difficult thing. I think we need to address some salient points in this country that we take for a joke. And we think the average age in government is 80 years old, and we laugh about it, we joke. If you go to social media, people play songs about it and a little bit. It is a very serious issue. Most of the people who are there at 80 started in government at the age of 25. So why not give space to 25 years old of today to start building their political career? Until we give them that allowance, young boys and girls, to start building a political career at the tender age, then the future of this country is doomed. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Amphrey, for those insights. And I see that there have been some comments in the comment section. We'll go to that and also take some audience participation if people want to share or add something, and also take a few questions as we go to the end. I see, will the votes even count? This is from Doris Olela. Will the votes even count, Comrade Vidya, since it's already obvious of the outcome? Ancestor Bia wants to die while in power 92 plus years. He's been ruling Cameroon for the last 43 years and still seeking another term, Abi. Shame on some of our African leaders. Okay, Doris again, sidelining women in the political spaces due to cultural and undermining women's authority poses a great risk in our whole governance system. Sam Kenanty, I think that's just how the whole system is built generally. And they said there's always room for improvement. Look at the case of Namibia, they've done it. Okay, Peter said if many have not collected their voters' cards by now, it calls for serious concerns because it means majority of voters wouldn't cast their votes. There was no specific, so he was asking, there was no specific period for voter registration so that people collect their cards on time. And then Sandrine said, without voters' cards, people can vote with their ID cards. What they need to do is ensure they confirm their polling station and ensure that their names are rightly spelled on the ID. Okay, and then you're talking about this is wrong. Voter registration was open from January 1st to July 11th. And within this period, when voters' cards were available, announcements were made for people to go and collect their cards. That should be late January, if not early February this year. Okay, yeah, so many good comments. There's Itati who said, Free, you mentioned young girls not being able to vote. Could you elaborate? Is there a law barring them? And then Prosper Lang says, the skeptical future has always been in Cameroon. We know the end product, but if we register and vote, there is hope. All right, thank you very much for these comments, comrades, and I'll bring our speakers to react on some of them soon. But also there's a tendency, or there's something that I've gotten out of the conversations that we have had. So there is, first of all, information that is, so it's a two-way thing, right? So from the part of the government, what many people, so I know that during the news, was it yesterday, they were talking about the number of people that registered, and it was going to about 8 million Cameroonians. But when they talk about the number of Cameroonians that have collected their voter cards, anyone correct me if I'm wrong, it should be like 1 million something. So you see that it's like fewer people have collected the cards. But I think that this is based on a number of factors. You know, you say, for example, if you work in civil society and your direct role or your direct involvement is on the voting issue, you are aware of certain things because you find out that information. But in terms of, sensitization for people to register, for registration was very high, but sensitization for people to collect those cards was not as high. So there was so many people doing so much for people to register, and that's why we got a new number. But then the information as to when are we going to collect these cards, what is the deadline, or should people go and collect, wasn't as intense as that. So it's like you do one thing, but you start something and that doesn't continue until the end. Because now we're going to end up with very few Cameroonians deciding the future of our country. The second thing, which is also relating to what Bidia spoke about, and I think also Madam Free mentioned, was about, the whole issue of people actually facing difficulties in getting those voter registration cards. And it is I remember in a forum yesterday, there was a lady who mentioned her dad who had been to Elekam several times. They make them wait on the line and then ask them to go. And then eventually there's some people who actually said they were asked to give money, like actually pay cash to receive their cards. So you see that there's an issue. So I think there's negligence. I get negligence on the part of those who committed or told themselves, I will vote this year and I'm going to register. And now their commitment to continue, but also the part from the authorities, ensuring that the same message that was passed in encouraging people to get registered would also be passed, and intensive activity done to make people know that they need to come and collect it. So that's also, and I mean, and when we are trying to get people to register, there's even door to door. But now when you have to collect, you have to go to Elekam office or some place. So I think there's so many people who um have different kinds of emotions when it comes to this, but there's a lot that we can do. And I'll take just anybody who wants to share. I know Sandrine, you indicated that you wanted to share something, so please, I've asked you to unmute. You can be able to share your own perspective.
Thank you, Ansel. Can you hear me though?
Yes, hear me. Perfect.
All right, thank you so much. Good afternoon to everyone that is in the room. So I joined in a little late, but I just want to share some few stuff, especially when I saw the message, I think from the question from Peter was asking regarding the voters cards. So basically I work under a project where since last year, September, our main task or activity has been to get people to pick up their voters cards and also to get people to register on the electoral roll. And so, like Ansel just mentioned, some of us are aware of certain information that maybe majority Cameroonians are not aware of. So like I mentioned, from January to July 11th, that was the voter registration period. But say late January to early February, that's when the voters cards were available. The years prior to this, voters cards had not been made. And I think Eleka mentioned that they had some challenges regarding printing these cards, but they were able to start doing so as of February, we can say. So these cards were already available, and we're doing a bit to ensure that people pick up their cards and also people register. So the key thing now is no longer on the registration and stuff. And since people are having so many difficulty with picking up their cards, myself, I haven't been able to. I went to the state center where I registered. The population was just so much that no matter how long we waited, it was difficult to pick, and I ended up giving up and going back home. But one information that I have at hand is without your voter's card, you can use your ID card to vote. I'm saying this confidently because our work, we do so in partnership with Elecam. And so we have certain information regarding stuff like this. So if you cannot vote, if you don't have your voter's card, take your ID card with you to your polling station on Sunday. But you have to ensure, one, you've confirmed that you were registered under that polling station. Two, your names were rightly spelled. Because without this, if you go to the polling station, they will tell you that it is not the same person. Yes, so please, everyone, without your voters' cards, please make sure that you use your ID card and ensure that you confirm this information, the information I just mentioned. There is a website by one of the candidates. That is where I was able to confirm my polling station and name. I don't know if I can be able to find that and share here. It's not necessarily that you should go and vote this person, but it is to say that if you access this website, you can actually, from the comfort of your home, confirm your polling station and name. So when I'll unmute myself, I'm going to find that and I'll put it in the chat. Another important thing is, please know that our votes are not complete unless we go back and follow up. This is when we talk about electoral fraud, one of the major ways in which it happens is when we are absent during the counting. We have the major responsibility of counting the votes, even according to the electoral code. We as Cameroonians have the responsibility to count it as scrutineers. We can go and volunteer and then we count it. They choose 3 random persons from the population to come out and count. It is not Elekam that counts. It is not the administration that counts. It is not some specific or a special person that counts, but anybody who is eligible to vote can actually count the votes on this day. So after voting, go back and make sure that you observe and you volunteer in the counting. I'm also saying this because I just want us to understand this little pyramid, right? At the local level or the subdivisional level, after we vote and everything, we give this information to a local electoral commission. This commission writes the report. When they finish, they send it to the divisional. It is not the divisional that goes back to conduct voting again or to count. No, it is us at the basic level that actually do the important part, which is the counting. So at the end of the day, if we fail at our part of observing and counting, we are also likely to fail, or we might not have the results that most of us are expecting. So please vote and follow up on your vote. Thank you, Ansel.
Thank you very much. Very important insights there, Sandrine. Thank you for sharing also. I'm happy that you shared about the work that you're doing and the work that the civil society is doing in general. Hopefully, we would get there someday. We're very eager to see how, October 12th, outcome of October 12th, but hopefully, more and more people get to know this vital information that you're giving, because I think that the major issue that we have in Cameroon is that people don't even know. So they don't know what it is that is expected of them. And I think the civil society is doing their best, the movements are doing their best, and hopefully we can get more people who can share. Yes. There's Diele, Laris, please. You wanted to add something.
Okay, can you hear me?
And maybe, Dele, when sharing your perspective, you can just tell me what the sentiment has been, because you are also in the English-speaking region of the country. So what's the sentiment? Are those around you ready for voting on Sunday? What's the sentiment? But just go ahead and share your thoughts.
All right, so I'm here to talk about the sentiment and to be very honest about my feelings and what is happening currently in Cameroon. So it's sad that this is the 4th week we are indoors every time, like for the 4th week in a row, like a month. So on Monday to Friday, we are staying inside the house. You only go out on Saturday and Sunday to get groceries. Then you go back home from Monday to Friday. And all of this before now, it started in September because they say that they don't want kids to go back to school because the school calendar of the separatists is not appealing to what Cameroon's calendar says. Cameroon calendar said that on the 8th of September, we all go back to school. But the separatists say that their calendar stipulates that children go back to school when they want, and September 8th was not part of it. So we started staying indoors from that time. So if you have a baby or a child who has to go back to school in Northwest and Southwest, no, they have not been going to school till now. So we are all indoors. And after that, after the whole saga of, okay, now we can start going back to school, they say, oh, the elections are starting. So we all have to stay back indoors. And that is how the drama has been. We have been indoors in that. And it's sad that there are places in the Southwest currently who have been here for 3 months without electricity. So every day for the past 3 months, we haven't had electricity. Like there are thousands of different places I could name. Right now, I don't have electricity. I didn't sleep in the house yesterday because we don't have electricity in our environment. Like I risked myself to go look for where to probably get my laptop charged or maybe attend a meeting like this. And we are actually having an election that is coming up. I think we are trying to survive in the English part of Cameroon than any other thing right now. Inflation of prices has gone to a mad road. You go to the market to buy tomatoes, $1 equivalent to Cameroon currency is 500 francs. They give you 5 tomatoes for $1. And I think you don't know whom you want to fit in your family. If you have 10 children or 5 children, you are somebody who has to go out of the house every day to work. Know that you will not work. If you're working for the private sector, there is no money for you because you have not been proving your worth as a worker. So we all are starving at some point. And if you have been using your savings for forever or bought things for babies to go back to school, they are gonna starve because there is no other money to survive them during this period. Staying home has been exhausting. People are trying to be saved more than trying to go to the voting poll. And talking about the voters card, when the president of Cameroon, the current president, who is still going in for the election, had his normal tour to sensitize the community of the election, Boya was part of it. And they decided to do that on a Saturday. That was last week, if I'm not making a mistake. The ambiance was something else. We couldn't move. Taxi drivers were really hurt that the day that they only have to probably work and feed family, they cannot move because they have closed the road. Our ministers and every other person who came for that program, there was a lot of convulsion, there was a lot of traffic issues. So at the end of the day, I was like, why didn't you guys come here on a Friday, on a Saturday, on a Wednesday, on a Thursday when we all at home? Let's all experience the lockdown. Because even the military people, all of them are afraid. They are going into their hideout and staying. Somebody said something that will I go out to go and vote and I'm killed in the process. So it's a place here in Southwest and Northwest for survivor. And talking about 8 million people who have registered for voters card, and just 1 million have received their voters card. Part of that community of people are from the French and the English part of Cameroon, for example. But how do you go out there to be motivated when you have to maybe stay back home every Monday? It's a ritual. Probably you're trying to say, oh, my baby has to go to school, and you're worried even maybe they go to school and they are killed or something. Are we trying to survive or exist, or we're trying to look for who is going to save the country, which over the years, for the past 43 years, one person has stayed in this place. So I feel like we are tired. And the probability that Sandrine is bringing here, that if you can use your ID card, a lot of people are still trying to even make ID cards in Cameroon, because the tendency of having ID cards before now, it was really slow. The reality of having an ID card now, it's now that the president or whoever did this election and whatever is happening, that we started having ID cards earlier than before. But now it's taking like a month. But people are still not believing in the system because the system has been failing for like ever. So a system that has not been right for never a time, for over 44 decades, but you don't feel like it's gonna change. It's a process. I think that we should give Cameroonians that time to breathe. It's a process to come to this new reality that you can put your voice together and things get better for us. So even if we don't do it this year, we are hoping that when things change, we will get better. Issa Chiruma went to Douala, everywhere was jam-packed. People were excited to see him, that, oh, there's somebody who changed it. But amongst these people, over the number of thousands who were there, I think half of them haven't received their cards, their voters card. And like Sandrine says that we could use our ID card, but none of us, even me who is sitting here, I didn't know till today. So I think the work of telling them to vote is good, but the work of getting back this voters card is really very important, and telling them how to do it and how we should go about it. So I think we could give Cameroonians a break for these 7 years, because we're still not knowing what is going to happen, because things can still happen really bad. We're trying to survive, especially in the English part. But I think we have grown in knowledge that things can be changed. The minds of the people have evolved, and I think that is what is really important now. Then the next year, if these things still happen, then we'll say there's a question mark in Cameroonians. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Laris, for sharing that, and it's good to hear. Like I said, we're both Cameroonians living in two different places, and we don't have the same story. We don't have the same reality when it comes to preparations for the voting on Sunday. I have to be worried only about how I can get my voter's card. That's the only thing I have to worry about, because of the current problems that we're facing with getting it. But then you have to worry about a lot of things. You have to worry about the test card, but even if you have it, you have to worry about security and going out there. So it's really a huge challenge for us. Like the challenges are multiple, and we're hoping that at least at some point we can be able to find ways to get around it. at least we know some of the things that we know, and we can spread the message. I also want to thank Mirabelle. If you like, if you see, she has put the official Elecam link actually that puts that allows you to be able to know where your voters card is. And then there's also the no to for you to be able to identify your voting station. And then there's also the link that Sandrine shared as well. I think she already gave the disclaimer that it's for a candidate, but it's just because you can also get that information, and it doesn't necessarily mean voting for that candidate. All right. I think we have been speaking, and we've been going past the hour. I don't know if there's anybody else who would like to share something before we have final closing words from our speakers. But also, maybe I'm going to throw this back to everyone, because this is a conversation, and ask, what would Pan-African solidarity look like during this period? What would Pan-African solidarity look like? And now this is, because this is Cameroon elections, and I think that one step for solidarity is actually having the comrades that have joined in from Zambia, from Kenya. I saw, I don't know if there's another country that's in here that I haven't mentioned. Okay, the DRC. I see Crispin from the DRC. So, the fact that we have these comrades who have joined in from different countries also, just to be part of this conversation and share their own perspective. It's also a part of Pan-African solidarity, and that's the kind of solidarity that we're trying to build at Africans Rising, saying that issues that concern Africans should be of interest to you. It doesn't matter if it's not your country and where you were born, or where you hold a passport or an identity card, but you're interested in these issues because you believe that anything that affects Africans everywhere affects you. So what do we think? Do we, maybe as speakers, or just anyone, we can talk about the whole issue of solidarity as we wrap up? What would Pan-African solidarity look like in this period? And please, if there's anybody who wants to say anything, you can use the chat, you can raise your hand, and then even our speakers can go. If you're ready to speak also, you can go on and just put that together with your closing remarks. Sorry, this was supposed to be 1 hour. We've gone a little bit overboard, but this is because the conversation was an interesting one. We've got to learn a lot of things, but we've also got to, get different insights from different people, and that's a beautiful thing. Yeah.
Can I speak?
Yes, please.
Okay. Madame Ansel, before going to Pan-African solidarity, because I'll get to that, I want to add something to what Miss Leris made mention of. Sometimes talking about people not really being enthusiastic going to collect their voters card at this level, the people are in the haste to collect their voters card. It's just at the last minute, because the people were earlier called to collect their voters card, because when you go and register you register to have a voters card, you're given a receipt and you're being told to come and collect the voters card. But at one point, they were like, if you discuss with some young people, they'll be like, there is no opposition, and the winner will still remain a winner. So what is the need? That was the first problem. That was the first problem of the young people, saying the winner will remain the winner. So at one point, they were discouraged. They didn't even bother to know who are the candidates in place. What are their program? What is the manifesto of each candidate? If you ask some young people how many candidates are even there, they won't know, because all of them are discouraged. They don't even care. Some of them will be like, they ask me to go and do a voter to have a voter's card, but they don't even know the importance of having a voter's card, how it is going to help them, how it is going to profit them. So that was what I was going to add, especially when Kamto came. When Kamto came and he was not permitted to partake in the electoral procedure, like, you saw many people in the street saying, this is a clear the clear dishonesty, the corrupt nature of Cameroon. This is how things have always been happening. This is how things have always been done. It won't change. It won't. Like, these are the kind of comments we had in the street with young people on social media, on panels. This is what most young people were saying. They didn't even understand. It is at the last minute, with the rally of some politicians, for example, like Kamto, this young one, EOD, like this politician, is the way they were able to rally people. That is where the enthusiasm was grown. That was where young people realized and said, okay, let me go and collect my voters card. But some of them don't even know the importance of their voters card. It is true you can go and collect with your ID card, but you equally have to understand that having a voters card is very important. It is very important because it is your license to decide. This is the direct reason. Without your voters card, you're a spectator. With it, you are a decision maker. On election day, for example, that card is the only ticket to enter the polling station and make your mark. It is the official document that links you as a citizen to the power to choose your leader. No card, no vote. It is that simple and non-negotiable. It is your badge of citizenship and belonging. In a country with deep division, this voter's card is a powerful symbol. It says that regardless of your tribe, your region, for example, your gender, or even your economic status, you are a citizen of Cameroon. So it is a reminder that the future of your village, the future of your city, and even your nation is your responsibility. It is the great equalizer. It is the polling booth. The vote of someone with a PhD and a vote, for example, of a market trader who holds the same card has exactly the same weight. And I'm going to conclude that it is a shield against being erased. For decades, the messages were sent to many, especially the youth, the poor, and those in marginalized regions. It is that they do not matter. The voter's card is your physical proof that you do matter. When you register and you hold that card and you're declaring, I am here, I count, you cannot ignore me. It is a direct challenge to apathy and to choose who would rather stay, it is like, who would rather you stay silent and invisible. It is your name and your official record stating your right to shape your destiny. So it is very important. So that's what I had to say. And concerning Pan-Africanism, just express this for me to be very much clear. Let me say it in French. Si l'Afrique se réunit pour parler ou bien pour se rediriger sur une seule chose ou encore sur un trauma qui nous dérange tous, il y aura une solution. Bien la pression, le fait de mettre la pression sur une seule chose, nous aurons quand même un résultat plus concret. Le fait que tout le monde reste tranquille, le fait que tout le monde soit dans son coin, bien le fait que chaque individu se concentre sur les problèmes ou encore sur les difficultés de son pays, l'autre pays se dira que le peuple seul, la voix du peuple seul ne portera pas. L'autre peuple se dira que non, moi seul, ce que nous sommes en train de faire, ce sont des choses légaux, mais non. C'est plusieurs communautés, c'est plusieurs personnes, c'est plusieurs pays africains mettent pression sur le système où nous nous trouvons. Certes, que ce soit sur des réseaux sociaux, que ce soit en présentiel, si la pression est vraiment intense par la population, par les médias, si dans notre pays, les médias n'ont pas l'amabilité de s'exprimer aisément comme dans d'autres pays, si des médias de l'extérieur, la diaspora, la population d'autres pays africains mettent pression sur le système dont nous vivons, sur les injustices dont nous vivons dans notre pays actuel, je pense que la pression aurait mené à quelque chose parce que la pression porte énormément. La pression, lorsqu'on parle de la pression, c'est quelque chose qui appuie et c'est quelque chose, lorsque cette pression est appuyée, elle est aplatie et nous aurons un résultat plus concret. Donc, c'est ce que j'ai à dire, Madame Ansel.
Merci beaucoup, Bidias, pour cette intervention. Je pense que je veux un peu, I'd say just quickly in a resume, for those who don't understand French, for her, Pan-African solidarity would mean that we as Africans reunite as one and speak with one voice, and also to put immense pressure on these governments to be able to show on social media, via the television and all other means some of the injustices that are being faced. If there is enough pressure put in by the entire African community, then would hopefully get some results. Thank you very much, Jazz, for sharing that. And I'll just read this comment from Annette. I think regarding the case of Cameroon, Pan-African solidarity would be for other Africans and activists to raise their voices and speak against the lack of democracy and the injustices in Cameroon. Cannot do, I think she wanted to say, Cameroonians cannot do it alone, especially being in a country because where your life is at risk if you talk. We count on fellow Africans to stand for the good of Cameroon. And then Peter says we need to stand with Cameroonians and denounce injustices. Thank you so much, comrades, for sharing that. And I'll take a final comment from Sandrine and closing words from Madam Freya Sanga, and then we end our conversations for today. Sandrine? Sandrine, I see your hand is up.
Can I go now?
Yes.
Oh,
please,
okay.
yeah.
It's the unmute wahala.
No,
So
don't worry.
I just wish to add that at a time like this for us Cameroonians, solidarity for us will mean African states calling on our government to ensure that there are fair electoral practices, to ensure that there is safety for all Cameroonians as we go out to vote, because these are the major reasons why people are afraid. If election is fair, people will not be concerned or will not want to go and vote because they think that somebody has already won. If there are no safety concerns, people will go out and vote. So they have to ensure the safety of the Cameroonians, and they have to ensure that the practices are fair throughout, fair and transparent throughout. Like I had mentioned, if we or other African states keep putting pressure and they let the government know that according to the electoral code, they have to make sure that it is the population or persons from the population that come to count that is ensuring that the process is fair. And so, and if they also push further to state that once the minutes or the statistics of the votes have been written, they shouldn't be modified, it will ensure that there is no manipulation after the counts or the results have been written at every polling station. So what we need is for African states, for international organizations to make statements and send it out there and tell the Cameroonian government that ensure that there are fair practices and that there is a safety of every Cameroonian, because the environment right now is somewhat tense, and we want elections to be peaceful before, during, and after. We've suffered a lot. The least we need is for violence to erupt to even further our suffering. So while some people believe in transition by force, to me, I still believe we should go through the ballot box. We have to be alive to even experience the change we all need. And so for whosoever it is that emerges as winner, all what we want is for them to lead us right. Lastly, again, if you can tell people without your voter's card, you can use your ID card. I'm saying this because we work in collaboration with Elecam and we have this information. So if people can confirm their polling station, confirm their name, and they have their receipt, they can simply state on that day that they were unable to get the voter's card or their cards had not yet been made. As a result, they have this receipt, this is their ID, and their polling station has been confirmed. So what they can do, or what they are here to vote, and they should be allowed, without which alarm needs to be raised, because that is how it is supposed to be. So basically, we can only wish ourselves luck and just pray that we have a good elections. I don't think we will have some kind of major challenge on that day itself. The challenge should be on the day of proclamation of results, because the tension, or say, let's just say there will be a lot of tension in the air. So maybe we can say we are a little safe on Sunday, but it is after Sunday that the dynamics of it will tell us how our fate is going to be. So at the end of the day, we just hope that we get good results, irrespective of who wins. If the current president wins again, let it be because he was voted in power, not because the votes were manipulated in his favor. And we can ensure this by making sure we are there during the counting process. If you cannot vote, go back to the polling station or a polling station around you. Observe it. It is your right. Observe and make sure things are done right. This is our own way. This is our own way of making sure things go right. So basically, that is just my own ad. And change can only come if we start acting now. As much as we say we want change, when we will be ready to take the steps that require change. As much as there are so many challenges that are there is insecurity, the youth are not motivated, there is no need to go and vote, all of this. It is only when we start taking actions, solution-driven actions, that we will be moving towards the change. If we all complain so much, or we talk about these challenges so much, and we stay and take no action, it means we are not ready for any change. And for me, I'll always go the peaceful route, which is still the ballot box, because like I said, we all need to be alive to at least experience the change that we need. So thank you, Ansel, and I wish everyone the very best.
Thank you, Sandrine, again for pointing on that. We are here and we have the responsibility to spread the word. If we only got to know today, and we say we're, the number of people on this call, if we reach out to other Cameroonians that we know, even our comrades from other countries, and say, this is important information that we got, we are contributing already to that process. Because what we always have to understand is that your own individual effort counts. In the same way that one vote can change everything, one individual effort can change everything. All right. So, Madam Freya Sanga, maybe any closing words from you as we end?
Yes, Ansel, thank you. And thanks to everybody who has participated today. Before I give my closing remark, I'd like to address a question that was on the chat box with regards to what I talked about, young girls not being able to vote. The age of maturity in Cameroon is 18. At 18, you can join the army. At 18, you can be criminally liable for any act that you commit. But at 18, you cannot vote. So there is a gap between the age to vote, which is 20, and the age when you are considered an adult. And to me, that is excluding a segment of the population who, in our opinion, should be given that right to exercise their civic duty if they can be called upon to defend the nation. Now, with respect to the electoral register, I think one of the beauty of what Elecam did was taking the registration process to the people. So everybody could vote. There was the mobile polling station close to every citizen. And that resulted in the massive turnover. Whereas the process of collecting the card became something different. So people now had to go to Elecam offices close by, but which is far away from the people. And after having made 2 or 3 trips and not being able to collect a card, some people were discouraged.
Yeah.
So, and then keeping that piece of paper for I don't know how many months, some people have misplaced it. If you go now to the polling station, to a Elecam office, they will ask you for the card before you're even given a number to go in to collect a card. They will ask you for that, your receipt of registration. So it is frustrating. And when the electorate is frustrated, they are discouraged, which is one thing that I am very happy we are encouraging people to, despite those challenges, let's go out and vote. And if I address a Pan-African feminist movement, if we can come together across the board on the continent, I think we can learn from each other. There are certain countries that are more advanced than Cameroon. There are countries, we have countries where women are president, majority in parliament, majority in government, but the reverse is true for Cameroon. So we have a lot to learn from others. And I think that a platform like that would be encouraging to women in Cameroon to know that all hope is not lost. In a few months' time, we'll be going in for municipal and parliamentary elections. Hope is not lost. We should tighten our belt and make sure that many women go in for the municipal and parliamentary elections. We should make sure that many female voters go out and vote such that our voices will start to be heard in this country. And eventually, someday, women will be at the helm of the government of this country. Thank you.
Thank you so much for those very strong closing words. And also, yes, thank you for throwing some insights into that question on the the age 18. So thank you so much, comrades. Thank you for taking part in this very timely conversation. We've heard reflections on voter engagement, on inclusivity, the real risk, the realities that is faced by communities, and especially by the regions in the conflict. And we also want to thank everyone, especially our speakers who were here. Unfortunately, one of our speakers couldn't make it, but we're also happy that we have others who made the effort to share their own perspective. And as Africans Rising, we're standing in solidarity with all those who are working for unity, for justice, for peace, and for credible elections, not just in Cameroon, but across the continent. And we want to encourage everyone to stay engaged, to support grassroots mobilization, and to keep advocating for transparent, peaceful, democratic processes in Cameroon and Africa at large. So thank you very much. And until next time, please let's stay safe, let's stay active, let's stay connected. And if you're not a member of Africans Rising yet, please, I'd like to encourage you to check out the movement and join Africans Rising. I'm just going to share here the link to join the movement. It's just management.africansrising.org/register. You can join as an individual if you want to be part of building the Africa that we want, and we would love to hear from you. Thank you very much, and happy voting, Cameroonians, and we're hoping that we can have an engagement again sometime to know how this went. Thank you very much and have a nice time. Bye-bye.